Hey there! Welcome back to Movies Hunter. Today I'm going to take you on a wild ride through the world of fantasy, horror, and mystery with the 2020 film Fantasy Island. So, we begin on a secluded island with a woman named Sloan. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but let's call her Sloan. She is running for her life. Sloan. She is being chased by someone, and in her desperate attempt to seek help, she calls the island's owner, who has a very unpronounceable last name, Mr. Roar. I hate R's, but let's call him Mr. R. But he reminds her that she is just a guest and offers no assistance. Poor Sloan. She is captured by her pursuer, leaving us wondering what kind of sinister game is being played on this island. Cute. Next, we see a group of excited guests arriving on the island via plane. Anyway, they are hoping to fulfill their deepest desires. They are greeted by the mysterious Mr. R and his assistant Julia. Among them are Gwen Olsen, Melanie Cole, Patrick Sullivan, and stepbros JD and Brax Beaver. But lurking in the shadows is a man named Damon, who seems to be keeping a close eye on the island's visitors. Mr. R tells the guests that all of their fantasies can come true, but there's a catch. Everything must come to a natural conclusion. It's clear that there's a mysterious, more sinister thing going on here, but our guests seem oblivious to the danger that lurks beneath the surface. After the introductions, Mr. R takes them all to live out their fantasies. JD and Brax are taken to a never-ending party where JD is surrounded by beautiful women, and Brax is living his best life smoking weed with handsome men. But amidst the party, Brax sees what appears to be an apparition of a horribly burned man. Spooky. The next morning, Gwen meets Mr. R, who seems to know a lot about her past. He takes her to her fantasy, a restaurant where she had previously rejected a proposal from her ex-boyfriend, Alan, so she could pursue her career goals. However, to Gwen's surprise, Alan is actually there, and he is a part of the fantasy. Despite feeling bad for Alan, Gwen enjoys reconnecting with him, and when he proposes to her again, she chooses to accept. Talk about a romantic reunion. Hopefully nothing ruins that fantasy. Moving on, Melanie shares her personal fantasy with Patrick, and it's quite twisted. She wants to torture her former school bully. Mr. R takes her to a basement where she finds Sloan, her bully, tied up behind a two-way mirror. Melanie thinks it's just a hologram and proceeds to torture her by electrocuting her and dumping toilet water on her. Love it. She even posts Sloan having an affair on Facebook for her husband to see. But as if things couldn't get any worse, the computer then calls Sloan's husband, revealing that Sloan is actually there and in grave danger. As if that wasn't enough, a man dressed as a surgeon enters the room, and he looks exactly like the doctor who used to terrify Melanie, aka Dr. Torture. He gets ready to use a buzzsaw on Sloan's arm until Melanie turns on the cuddle prod and toilet water to electrocute Dr. Torture and free Sloan. Talk about spine chilling. In the end, Melanie pretends to be a guest to keep Sloan from knowing that she was the one torturing her. Patrick is also taken to his fantasy, and he finds himself in a war setting in the 80s, where he reunites with his father, who was killed in action. However, things quickly take a turn for the worse when Patrick is taken as a prisoner by other soldiers. But wait, there's more. JD and Brax are screwing around with an array of grenades and guns in their mansion. The soldiers overhear this and end up in a firefight with enemies in their zone. Little did they know that their mansion is owned by a thug named Kalishuv, and a group of his armed thugs are approaching. It seems like our heroes are in for a real treat. Or a real threat, whatever. Meanwhile, Melanie and Sloan are trying to find a way off the island by going through the dark woods, but alas, Dr. Torture finds them again and attacks. Just when things are looking bleak, Damon appears and impales the surgeon with his machete. Who is Damon, you ask? Well, he was a private investigator who showed up as a guest with a fantasy of seeing his dead daughter again, and it came true. However, things turned into a nightmare and he became trapped there. Talk about a nightmare coming true. But that's not all, folks. Damon reveals that Mr. R spiked the guest's drinks with some kind of magic water that is the source of granting the guests their fantasies. It's basically drugs. Melanie and Sloan resolve to get to a phone to call for help. However, when looking into the fountain, the guests' fantasies are shown. Sloan's is to get back with her husband, while Melanie's is shown to torture Sloan. Whoa, things just got real. Melanie's true colors come to light. She reveals that she lied about being a guest and gives Melanie a chance to vent her anger over her treatment. Mr. Sullivan confronts Patrick after discovering a picture of himself with his own son in Patrick's belongings. Patrick reveals that the child in the picture is him and that he is, in fact, Patrick's son. Although Patrick proves the information by revealing secrets only known to both of them, Mr. Sullivan is not convinced that Patrick will prevent him from his fate. A hostage rescue mission in Venezuela is happening the next day, and Patrick fears for his father's life. Next up, we have Gwen, who wakes up to find that she is married to Alan and has a 5-year-old daughter named Lila. She tries to change her fantasy because this is not what she had in mind. Her fantasy was to go back and save someone from a fire she caused. But to her surprise, Mr. R tells her that his own fantasy was to see his dead wife. He can only fulfill the guest's fantasies to keep his alive. Although Mr. R initially refuses, Gwen convinces him to let her enter the new fantasy after pointing out that he can only see his wife if he lets her have her fantasy. Let's hope Gwen's new fantasy is less complicated than her current situation. So anyway, we have Palishuv's head thug interrogating JD and Brax over some money that is supposedly in the mansion. They try to trick the thugs by saying that the money is in the garage where their weapons are. Meanwhile, Gwen enters a burning building to save a victim named Nick Taylor, but she's not alone. She sees JD and Brax running away like scaredy cats. Typical, right? Anyway, Gwen tries to be the hero and make her way into the burning apartment. But alas, she is unsuccessful, so she runs outside to get help, only to find Patrick the cop standing there like a bump on a log. What does he do? Nothing. He just wants to wait for the firefighters. Gwen runs back inside, but she ends up getting unconscious. Poor Gwen. Luckily, Julia finds her. Meanwhile, Patrick and some soldiers arrive at the mansion where the hostage situation is happening. Who would have guessed, right? JD and Brax try to fight off some thugs and Patrick comes to their aid. But wait, things take a turn for the worse when those thugs come back to life as zombies. Yes, you heard that right. JD and Mr. Sullivan end up getting killed, and neither Brax nor Patrick can save them. Sad. But that's not all, folks. Melanie, Sloan, and Damon, get attacked by a zombie called Dr. Torture. Can you imagine that? He even tries to attack Sloan. Luckily, Damon sacrifices himself by throwing both himself and the surgeon over the edge of a cliff. Wow, what a hero. And you can be a hero too if you subscribe to our channel. We're broke, so please save us from poverty. The ladies then return to the torture room to reach a phone, and Sloan calls her husband to apologize for her deception. Oh, and she also apologizes to Melanie. How sweet. They then contact Damon's associates for help to escape. As the guests gather to confront Mr. R, they realize they're all connected to Nick, who died in a fire. But it's not just any fire. It's a fire that was accidentally caused by Gwen leaving her kettle on in her apartment. Talk about a freak accident. But that's not all, folks, because Patrick was at the scene but didn't go in to help. JD was Nick's roommate but was forced to leave by Brax, and Melanie was supposed to go on a date with Nick that night but got sick and backed out. If only she had gone, Nick might still be alive. As the group tries to catch a plane to safety, they are shot down by the thugs. They then run for cover and believe that Julia was Nick's mother seeking revenge. But as they enter a cave to find the fountain, they are attacked by manifestations of their personal demons. Sloan sees her bullying self. Patrick is attacked by dead people he couldn't save, and Gwen sees that Lila has killed Alan. And if that's not enough, Nick's ghost appears before Gwen but doesn't know who Julia is. But wait, there's more. Melanie appears before Patrick and starts stabbing him. As the others reach the fountain to destroy it with a grenade, Mr. R stops them. And why he stopped them, you ask? Because Julia was his wife, and he doesn't want to stop seeing her after she passed away. And in a shocking twist, it's revealed that they're all in Melanie's fantasy. She wanted to go out with Nick that night, but her self-doubt from Sloan's bullying caused her to stand him up. Talk about a mind-bending twist. Mr. R is now faced with a tough decision as Julia's illness takes a turn for the worse. She urges him to let her go, and after much contemplation, he finally agrees. Meanwhile, Sloan still has a fantasy to fulfill, and Mr. R reminds her of it. Sloan drinks from the canteen and wishes for Melanie and Nick to be together. But just as her wish comes true, things take a dark turn. Nick's zombie suddenly emerges from the fountain and pulls Melanie inside, causing all the other zombies to vanish into thin air. Melanie, quick on her feet, retrieves a grenade and hurls it at everyone, but in a dramatic twist, Patrick throws himself onto the grenade, sacrificing himself to save everyone. The next day, Gwen, Sloan, and Brax are getting ready to leave, but not before Mr. R has one more surprise for them. He tells Brax that he technically lived out JD's fantasy, meaning he still has one left to fulfill. Brax decides he wants JD to return home safely, which would require him to stay on the island. As JD departs with Gwen and Sloan, Brax reveals JD's nickname for him, which is Tattoo. He then chooses to stay behind and become Mr. R's new assistant, setting the stage for even more bizarre adventures. And so this was the story of Fantasy Island. See you in the next hunt. Love you, I'm hungry.